Fixed my parents' house for free, then Dad said. That money went to your sister's vacation. Mom laughed, but when I responded, their smiles vanished. I sat at the dinner table, my hands aching from weeks of hard work, expecting nothing more than a simple thank you. My father leaned back in his chair, smirking, while my mother chuckled beside him. Good thing you did all that work for free, my dad said, taking a sip of his beer. Otherwise, we couldn't have afforded your sister's vacation. My mother laughed, amused, as if it were the punchline to some great joke. I felt the blood drain from my face. I had spent weeks fixing up their house, repairing the roof, repainting the walls, replacing broken fixtures, all with my own money. I'd assumed my parents were grateful, that maybe this was my way of giving back for everything they'd done for me. But now, sitting here, watching them laugh about it, I realized the truth. To them, I wasn't a son doing something kind for his parents. I was free labor. And my sister? The one who had never lifted a finger to help anyone. She was off sipping cocktails on a beach, funded by what should have been my payment. Their laughter faded when I leaned back in my chair, my voice calm but firm. That's good to know, I said. Because if you think I'll ever lift a finger for you again, you're dead wrong. Silence. My father's smirk disappeared. My mother's face stiffened, eyes flicking to my father as if expecting him to say something. But for the first time, he had nothing to say. And this? This was only the beginning. The tension in the room was thick. My father set his beer down a little too hard, his fingers tightening around the bottle. My mother, still holding on to the last remnants of amusement, forced a nervous chuckle. Oh, come on, she said, waving a hand. Don't be so dramatic. It's not like you expected to get paid. I stared at her, barely blinking. I didn't expect to be lied to either. My father scoffed. Lied to? You offered to help. No one forced you. Help. That's what they called it. I thought back to the long weekends spent on their roof, patching up leaks in the scorching sun. The late night sanding, painting, and replacing fixtures they had neglected for years. The trips to the hardware store, swiping my card again and again, because we'll pay you back, was always implied but never stated outright. And now, sitting at this table, they were telling me that the money they clearly had, was used to send my sister on a luxury vacation. My mother took another bite of her food, as if this conversation was already over. As if I would just swallow my anger, accept my role as the dependable fool, and move on. But not this time. I slowly pushed my chair back and stood up. Fine, I said, my voice steady. If you're so sure I never expected anything in return, then you won't mind settling up now. My father frowned. What are you talking about? I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small stack of receipts, neatly folded. I placed them in front of him. Every dollar I spent fixing this house. Materials, tools, everything. You owe me $6,428. My mother let out a sharp laugh, like I had just told the funniest joke of the night. Oh, please, she scoffed. That's ridiculous. No, what's ridiculous is you taking advantage of me. I turned to my father. You paid for my sister's vacation. You can pay me back. His face darkened. That money is gone. I shrugged. Not my problem. For the first time, my mother didn't have a quick comeback. She looked at my father, waiting for him to say something that would shut me down. But he was just staring at the receipts like they might disappear if he ignored them long enough. I wasn't bluffing. If they didn't pay me back, I already had a plan. And by the time I was done, they'd regret every cent they spent on my sister's trip. The silence stretched between us, thick and unyielding. My father's jaw tightened as he glanced down at the receipts again, then back up at me. You're being petty, he said finally, voice low and irritated. I laughed, not out of humor, but out of sheer disbelief. Petty? I repeated. You think I'm being petty? My mother sighed dramatically. Sweetheart, it's just money. You make a good living. Why are you acting like this? I gritted my teeth. Because it's not about the money. It's about respect. I spent weeks fixing this house while you sat back and let me. And then, instead of even pretending to appreciate it, you turn around and spend thousands of dollars on my sister's vacation? My father leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. So what do you want? An apology? No, I said coldly. I want my money. He scoffed. We don't have it. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then I guess I'll have to take back what I paid for. My mother frowned. What does that mean? I grabbed my jacket and pulled my keys from my pocket. You'll see. Then I walked out, leaving them staring after me. But this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. By the next day, they'd start to understand exactly what that meant. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I went straight to the hardware store and picked up a few things, nothing fancy, just enough to make my next move. The next morning, I drove back to my parents' house early. The place was quiet. They were probably still asleep, dreaming peacefully in the house I had rebuilt with my own hands. That wouldn't last long. I walked around to the side of the house and found the circuit breaker panel. With a few quick motions, I shut off the power to the entire house. Then I went to work. The expensive light fixtures in the hallway? Gone. I had bought those. The new door handles I installed? Removed. The shower head in the guest bathroom? Unscrewed and taken. Everything I had paid for was coming with me. And the best part? I saved the biggest surprise for last. By the time I heard my father stomping down the stairs, half-dressed and furious, I was already standing in the middle of the living room with a screwdriver in my hand. What the hell are you doing? He barked. I glanced up from the thermostat I was in the process of uninstalling. Oh, good morning, I said casually. Just taking back what I paid for. His face turned red. You can't just. I can and I will, I interrupted. Unless you have my $6,428 sitting in your pocket right now. My mother appeared at the top of the stairs, still in her robe. This is insane. We live here. Yeah? And I worked here. I shot back. For free. And I'm done being taken advantage of. I picked up the light fixtures, slung my bag of tools over my shoulder, and made my way toward the door. My father blocked my path. You're acting like a child. I smirked. No, I'm acting like a contractor who just repossessed his work. And with that I walked out. But I wasn't finished yet. I had one final move to make. By the time I was done, they'd wish they had just paid me back when they had the chance. I barely made it back to my truck before my phone started buzzing. Mom, you've lost your mind. We are your parents. Dad, get back here now and fix this mess. Mom, this is disgusting behavior. You should be ashamed of yourself. I turned my phone on silent. I wasn't interested in their outrage. They thought I was finished? Not even close. That afternoon, I made a few phone calls. First, to the electrician I had hired to help rewire part of their outdated system. Then, to the roofer who had helped me patch up their leaks. And finally, to the plumber who had assisted with the new pipes in the kitchen. Each of them had done side work for me as a favor. And none of them had been officially paid, because I had covered their costs myself. Now, I gave them the green light to send the invoices directly to my parents. Let them deal with those bills. By evening, I received another text from my mother. Mom, why are we getting calls about unpaid work? I chuckled to myself before responding. Me, because I'm done covering for you. Those are your bills now. No response. But I knew that was only because they were scrambling. And I wasn't done yet. The last thing I had paid for was their security system, a nice upgrade that they had begged me to install because they were too old to deal with all the new technology. That system? It was in my name. And with a few taps on my phone, I shut off their access completely. I leaned back in my chair, satisfied. By the time I was done, their house was worse off than before I had ever lifted a finger. And they finally understood what it meant to take me for granted. I didn't hear from them the next day. Or the day after that. I knew why. They were too busy dealing with the fallout. The electrician, the roofer, and the plumber had all sent their invoices, bills totaling thousands of dollars. The security system was offline. The light fixtures, door handles, and shower heads were gone. The power? Still unreliable, since I had removed the new breaker I had installed and left them with the faulty one they had before. They thought they could treat me like free labor, and then mock me for it. Fine. Now they were getting exactly what they had paid for. Nothing. Then, on the third day, my mother called. I let it ring. Then my father. Ignored. Then, finally, my sister. That one made me pause. Unlike my parents, she rarely called. I figured she was too busy relaxing on the vacation I had unknowingly paid for. But when my phone buzzed again and her name appeared, I picked up, mostly out of curiosity. Hello? You're such an idiot. She spat the second I answered. I raised an eyebrow. Nice to hear from you too. You're ruining everything, she hissed. Mom and Dad are freaking out. They said you sent them a bunch of bills and now they have contractors calling them nonstop. Yeah, I said flatly. That's what happens when you take advantage of people. Actions have consequences. She let out a humorless laugh. Oh, please. You did all that work because you wanted to. No one made you. And now you're acting like a child because they didn't throw you a parade? I clenched my jaw. No, I'm acting like someone who refuses to be used anymore. She scoffed. You're making a huge deal out of nothing. It's not like they even had the money to pay you. I smirked. Oh? But they did have the money for your vacation? Silence. For the first time, she hesitated. I pressed on. How much did they spend on you? How much did your free trip cost them? She hesitated. That's not the point. Oh, I think it is. More silence. I could practically hear her scrambling for a comeback, trying to twist the situation in her favor like she always did. But there was nothing she could say. She had benefited from my hard work while I got nothing in return. Finally, she huffed. Whatever. I just called to tell you you're being ridiculous. I grinned. And I love that it's bothering you. Click. She hung up. I set my phone down, still smiling. They were mad. They were frustrated. But most of all, they were losing control. And that was only the beginning. The next morning, I got a text from my mother. Mom, we need to talk. Come over for dinner tonight. I stared at the message for a long moment. No apology. No acknowledgement of what they had done. Just another demand, as if I was still the obedient son they could summon whenever it suited them. I almost ignored it. Almost. But then I realized something. They weren't just asking me to come over, they were inviting me to negotiate. They were starting to feel desperate. So I decided to go. But not to make peace. I was going to make sure they never tried to take advantage of me again. When I arrived that evening, the atmosphere was tense. My mother had set the table like we were having a normal family dinner, but the way my father sat stiffly in his chair told me everything I needed to know. They weren't happy. Good. I took my seat, silent as my mother served the food. She kept glancing at my father, waiting for him to speak. Finally, he cleared his throat. Look, he started, his voice tight. We need to move past this. I raised an eyebrow. Past what exactly? He exhaled sharply. This nonsense with the house. You got your point across. You took your stuff back, sent us those stupid bills. Not stupid bills. I corrected. Actual debts you owe. His jaw twitched. My mother jumped in, her voice softer. Sweetheart, we understand you're upset. But you're punishing us over a misunderstanding. I leaned forward, placing my elbows on the table. A misunderstanding? I repeated. Mom, you laughed in my face when Dad told me the money went to my sister's vacation. That wasn't a misunderstanding. That was you not giving a damn. Her expression faltered. That's not true. I folded my arms. So you do care? Then pay me back. Silence. My father scoffed. We don't have that kind of money lying around. I smirked. Then I guess you'll have to figure it out. Just like I figured it out when I paid for all those repairs with my own money. His hands clenched into fists. You ungrateful little. I pushed back my chair, standing up. You know what? This was a waste of time. My mother shot to her feet. Wait. Just sit down. I crossed my arms, waiting. She took a deep breath, lowering her voice. Maybe we can work something out. I tilted my head. Oh? Like how you worked out my sister's vacation? My father looked like he wanted to throw something, but my mother was still trying to salvage this. What if we pay you back in small amounts? She offered. Bit by bit? I pretended to consider it. That depends, I said. Would I have to wait the way I waited for a thank you that never came? She swallowed hard. I smiled coldly. Yeah, no thanks. Then I grabbed my coat and headed for the door. Behind me, my father slammed his fist on the table. You're just going to throw away your own family over a few $1,000s? I turned back, staring him dead in the eye. No. You threw me away the second you decided I wasn't worth paying back. And then I walked out. I knew they wouldn't let this go. But I was done playing nice. And if they thought this was over, they had no idea what was coming next. I didn't hear from them for a few days after that dinner. I figured they were letting their anger stew, expecting me to come crawling back, ready to make peace. They didn't know me at all. By the end of the week, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then another. And another. Finally, a text popped up. Mom, why are we getting calls from debt collectors? I grinned. See, while my parents were busy ignoring my invoices, I had taken the liberty of filing a claim in small claims court. On top of that, I sent copies of their unpaid bills to a collections agency. Their debt wasn't just my problem anymore. Now, it was official. They owed money, and someone other than me was coming to collect. Another text followed. Mom, call me. Now. Then my father's name flashed across the screen. I picked up, just to hear him squirm. What the hell did you do? He shouted the moment I answered. I yawned. Oh, you mean the debt you refused to pay? Yeah, funny thing about owing people money. If you don't pay it back, it becomes a real problem. You idiot! He barked. Do you have any idea what you've done? They're saying this could affect our credit score. I smirked. Sounds serious. You. He stopped himself, probably realizing screaming wouldn't help. His tone dropped, trying to sound measured. Look, let's just be reasonable about this. I was being reasonable, I said. When I handed you receipts. When I asked for my money back. When I warned you. But you laughed in my face. Remember that? Silence. You want to fix this? I continued. Pay what you owe. Simple. My mother's voice suddenly cut in. She must have grabbed the phone from my dad. Honey, please. This is hurting us. Why would you do this to your own parents? I laughed. You mean the way you've hurt me? By lying to my face? By throwing my hard work away on my sister's vacation? That was a mistake, she said quickly. We regret it. Oh? Then you should have no problem fixing it. She hesitated. We just need time. I checked my watch. You've had plenty of time. Pay me back, or deal with the consequences. Your call. She exhaled shakily. We don't have the money. That's not my problem, I said, repeating the same words they had used on me. Then I hung up. I knew what was coming next. They were going to get desperate. And when people get desperate, they crack. I just had to wait. And the real fun was about to begin. It only took 2 days. 2 days before my sister called. 2 days before my mother sent a string of texts, bouncing between angry, pathetic, and manipulative. 2 days before my father, the man who had smirked and told me my money funded my sister's vacation, finally swallowed his pride. Dad, come over. We'll talk. I let him wait a few hours before responding. Me about? Dad, the money? We'll figure something out. I smirked. Now they wanted to figure something out. I debated leaving them hanging a little longer, but I was curious to see just how much they had unraveled. So I agreed. When I arrived at their house that evening, the change in atmosphere was immediate. The arrogance? Gone. The smugness? Nowhere to be found. Instead, my father looked tired. My mother, standing beside him, looked like she'd been on the verge of tears all day. I stepped inside, arms crossed. So? My father exhaled. We'll pay you back. I raised an eyebrow. All of it? His jaw tensed. In payments. I pretended to think about it. Not good enough. My mother gasped. Honey, please. I cut her off. No. You weren't struggling when you booked that vacation for my sister. You had thousands of dollars for her. So why should I accept payments when I paid everything up front? They exchanged nervous glances. I sighed dramatically. All right. You don't want to pay the full amount now? Fine. Then I'll take other forms of payment. My father frowned. What does that mean? I smiled. Sign the car over to me. My mother's breath hitched. What? That's our. You didn't mind taking from me. I interrupted. So now I take from you. The car's worth more than what you owe me, but I'll consider the extra interest. My father's hands clenched into fists. That's ridiculous. I shrugged. So is expecting me to work for free. Silence. Then my father stormed toward the kitchen, probably to cool down. My mother turned to me, eyes pleading. Please, honey. We messed up, we know that. But the car. I stared at her. This isn't a negotiation. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She knew she had lost. A minute later, my father returned with the car title. He slammed it onto the table. Take it, he muttered. I picked it up and smiled. Pleasure doing business. Then I turned and walked out. My sister? She tried calling me 5 times that night, but I never answered. She could cry about it on her next vacation. And as for my parents? They finally understood what it meant to take me for granted. The next morning, I transferred the car title into my name and drove it off their property without a word. By noon, my sister texted me. Sister, you're unbelievable. How could you do this to Mom and Dad? I chuckled and replied. Me, enjoyed your vacation? No response. A week passed. Then 2. The calls stopped. The texts dried up. For the first time in years I felt free. No obligations. No expectations. Just peace. And the best part? They knew now. I wasn't their free labor. I wasn't their safety net. And I sure as hell wasn't their fool.